Hi there, Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 140 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my very best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured, leave them in the comment section below, and hopefully I'll get round to your question next week. Drop a like down below if you happen to enjoy the video. And before we get on to the questions, I just want to bring your attention to a link in the description below, which goes off to Entertainment Earth. If you do want to buy anything from Entertainment Earth, if you're in the US and they have it in stock, it has to be in stock. Using my link will get you 10% off. And if you use the SUNFREE22 code as well and spend over, I think it is $30, then you also get free shipping. So bargain all round. Obviously I get a small kickback from it. It's an affiliate link, so thank you so much if you do happen to use that link. Remember, it's only in stock items that you can order through that link. And with all that being said, let's get on to the first question. Connor says, hi boss, good show as usual. Have you got any hot toys or statues? I don't know if you saw the Vader from Kenobi series hot toys recently shown. I thought it looked great and will be buying. I did see it and it does look fantastic, I've got to admit, especially with the slice down the helmet. I think that's like a swappable head, isn't it? Absolutely awesome. There's no getting away from the fact that hot toys are fantastic, but I don't have any in my collection. I have a statue of a Kota Bossk in my sort of Bossk focus area in one of my Detolf cabinets. But I think with hot toys, it's just they'll just take up too much space. I mean, I could probably maybe safely display maybe 20 of them, and then that would be it. I'd have to be rotating them or whatever, but with 3.75 inch I can get so many more in, and of course they are a lot cheaper, but there's no getting away from it. The hot toys are fantastic, they look amazing. Matt's collection says, glad you had a great vacation, Tim. How relieved to hear the news that TVC is keeping the cards with the bubble. Yeah, this isn't something that I've discussed on my channel. I think I was the first person to sort of announce it. I think it's just pure luck being at my computer when the email dropped in from the Hasbro PR company. So I immediately put it on Instagram for everybody to see, and it got shared around, you know, hundreds of times, and everyone was equally as pleased as I was. And yeah, as I say, it's not something I've discussed or made a video about, but obviously I am over the moon about it because, you know, the thing that I love can carry on. We don't need to worry anymore. We don't need to worry about future releases being in some weird other packaging. It's all going to stay like this, which is fantastic. Angus0111 says, hey boss, question for next week. How do you think a comic wave would do in the vintage collection, and what figures would you like to see? So this is something that they do in the Black series, isn't it? They've got their publishing line, as it were, and it's not something that we've got in the vintage collection as of yet. I'm pretty sure it'll come. I think they've tried other things like carbonized and what have you. Thank God we haven't got the credit collection yet. Please don't do that, Hasbro. But in terms of the expanded universe and comics and everything, I'm not really 100% up to speed on some of those characters. I think Bantha Skull did a really good article. If you haven't checked that out, I recommend you checking that out, because they sort of talk about maybe some of the more expensive ones on the secondary market that could easily be reissued, or they're good enough to be reissued. So I advise you check that out, but I think it's something that could possibly happen without a doubt. If it's a success in the Black series, then there's no reason why they shouldn't try it in the vintage collection. I've got to admit though, for me personally, they would be something that's quite low down in the list of my priorities. Obviously I prefer the original trilogy, Rogue One, Clone Wars, Mandalorian, things like that. These sort of like expanded universe figures, although I do like them and I would buy them for the collection, I've got to, they just would be a bit lower than everything else. But saying that, all of the publishing figures don't seem to really affect the main line in the Black series. They do tend to be like repaints, kit bashes, that sort of thing. And that's kind of the way I would see it happening in the vintage collection, if that's the way they went. Alejandro Manzo says, great video as always, boss. Question for next week. With the release of Andor coming soon, do you think that would be enough of an excuse for Hasbro to revisit some of the Rogue One characters we missed? Still lots of important figures from the film that we've yet to see, and with Andor being new media, can't see much other opportunities they'll have to get them out. Cheers, mate. I totally agree, my friend. I think it is an excuse for them to be able to do that. I've got Tarkin here as a great example. Now I've put Tarkin there because obviously we had Admiral Piet announced, and with the release of that Admiral Piet, that then allows them to reuse that body as many times as they want for all the other officers. And I'm thinking Krennic here from Rogue One, that would be great. But Moff Tarkin, he would be a great one to do, because this figure is not good enough. The head sculpt's not good enough. He's got that silly skirt. He's green, not grey. It's just inaccurate. And at the end of the day, if they ever thought about reissuing Grand Moff Tarkin, you wouldn't want that one. You'd want them to give us an all new one using that new sculpt on a Rogue One card. Who knows, he may even be in Andor. So if he's in Andor, then, you know, you might get him on an Andor card. And then also we've got Saw Gerrera. He was in the trailer as well. So he's going to be in Andor. That's fantastic. And he's also been released in the Black Series. And that tends to be a trend, that they do something in the Black Series and then hopefully later on we get him in the Vintage Collection. So absolutely, we need more Rogue One figures. We need Baze Malbus, we need Bodhi Rook, we need Krennic. There's loads of them basically. But Andor does open the door, I have to agree. The Donut Van says, hey boss, question for next week. I've been seeing so many fans making 3D printed stuff for TVC, and one that caught my eye was a massive Scorpion from Book of Boba Fett. Do you think Hasbro could ever release something like this officially? So that was that thing that looked like it was from Clash of the Titans, wasn't it? That thing with like 4 arms. I think the person that has created one of those has no talent. I think it is. I've seen it on there. It looks great. In terms of Hasbro doing it, I really can't see it. I mean, we're still waiting for a Blurg, and they were in it a lot more than that thing. So, yeah, I don't think that sort of thing we're going to get any more. Those days are gone, unfortunately. I mean, I may be wrong, but I can't see it happening. Carl Thomas says, I've seen lots of unpunched figures going for ridiculous prices on eBay, but where would you pick them up from in the first place? Well, the answer is, my friend, is a case of figures that hasn't been put onto the pegs in a store. So with the TVC 1.0 figures like Tarkin here, you can see he's unpunched. This one would have come from either a retailer that doesn't have them on the pegs, like online, or it would have come from a sealed case, something like that basically. It would just never have been hung on the pegs. And that was kind of the excuse that the Star Wars team had, I believe, when TVC 2.0 came back and they made all of the card backs punched, is because they said that the retailers didn't want to be picking up these bits of cardboard off the floor. I think that's nonsense personally, and I think lots of us would want, you know, unpunched cards, especially if they're going to be coming from somewhere like Entertainment Earth or Dorkside Toys or Star Action Figures here in the UK. You know, they're not going to be putting them on pegs. So why can't we just have them unpunched? But that's the reason. JSB225 says, question for next week. What is your preference for swappable heads versus removable helmets? I love the Fennec and Bo-Katan swappable heads and was disappointed the new Boba had the removable helmet. Personally, I think the removable helmets have a higher chance of warping and not looking right. Rubs off the paint of the face too. Also, what are the chances we get a Kenner-style TVC Boba Fett repaint? Well, to answer your first question there, I do prefer the swappable heads. There is no doubt about it. And when I reviewed Axe Woves, in my video, it didn't seem that I was surprised that it had the removable helmet rather than a swappable head. And that's because I'd completely forgotten about the original images that they showed for that figure. The helmet in the original images looks a lot smaller. It looks a lot more like the Death Watch Mandalorian helmet, for example. Just repainted. So when I was reviewing the figure, I mean, of course it's a lovely figure and everything, but the helmet is definitely oversized, and that is the main problem for me because it has to fit over that head with the hair. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then go check out that review. It's on the channel. I'll leave a card just up there for you. But yeah, definitely because of the figures that we've got recently, Bo-Katan, Koska Reeves, Fennec, the swappable heads is a must for me when it comes to these figures. Now I'd like to give a quick shout out to a guy on Instagram called OBAOB1. That's his Instagram account, and he kindly sent me a one-off donation to the channel through my Linktree, which was very, very kind of him. Thank you so much for that, my friend. He's got a decent Instagram, he does lots of different customs and everything, and he also wants to ask a question. And his question is basically, do I think the reason that we haven't got a Farm Boy Luke is down to Lucasfilm? And I think my answer to that is that I don't think we really fully appreciate how much Hasbro do have to sort of get Lucasfilm say-so on many different things. And he's right. If you read the Blue Milk book, the TVC archive book, there's loads of things in there where they say, you know, they couldn't do this because of Lucasfilm, they couldn't have done that because of Lucasfilm. Now, I don't know if the Luke Farm Boy is anything specific, but essentially when they come round to doing Luke Farm Boy, there'll definitely be some toing and froing with Lucasfilm about, you know, what's included, whether he gets the hat and all this kind of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see on that figure. He also says, what is the most direct and effective manner in which fan requests for a HasLab TVC Mos Eisley Cantina can be put to Hasbro? I've already written to Hasbro 3 times and received 3 responses. So basically, I think the best way to do it is carry on, you know, with your own Instagram channels and things like that, forums, replying to comments of creators' websites, Facebook groups, you know, just shouting your opinion, because Hasbro do read that stuff. And if there is enough demand for something, then it will get talked about in their meetings, and, you know, then a decision will come from that. So if you want a Mos Eisley Cantina, then I suggest you just keep talking about it. Keep mentioning it, saying you want it as a HasLab, and maybe one day it'll come true. My mate Chris from Toys of the Jedi. Hello there, my friend. He says, hi Tim, great video as always. My question for next week: who do you think will be the last figure that Hasbro make from the original 96 in the vintage collection? I think it will be Simu to ensure collectors are in until the end. What say you? Yeah, that's probably a good shout, and he's an ultra boring figure, isn't he? So he's not, you know, I think I said on a video, maybe even last week, that the thing is with Simu is that all the hardcore fans would buy him, but then after that, how many are they really going to sell? And I think it's probably between him and maybe the Anakin Force Ghost. It's between those two, isn't it? 2 questions about Nomad Fett here. First one's from Jose Garcia, and he says, question for you: the Boba Fett figure that comes with the re-release of the Slave One, do you think it will be released alone, on a card back, or deluxe box? And Davin Brooks says, hey boss, love the vid. Question for next week: for the new Slave One announced at SDCC, do you think that the new Boba Fett that's coming with it will be released single carded by itself? What are your thoughts? Keep up the great vids. So I think we can definitely expect this figure to be released by himself at some point in the future, hopefully next year, because I think that was pretty much confirmed by Chris from the Hasbro Star Wars team on various interviews at the San Diego Comic-Con. He kind of sort of let it out of the bag that that will come out sometime in the future. Will it be a single card or a box in terms of the deluxe? I can personally see that one being on a card, because they've already got some of the money back from the sale of the Slave One, and also the figure isn't completely new. I think he's kit bashed a little bit or whatever, so, you know, I don't think he really warrants a deluxe box, and hopefully he'll have his own card back. So yeah, that's just my opinion on it. Collins Collectibles says, hi Tim, love the videos and the live streams. Question for next week: with the running change to the Migs Mayfeld figure, do you think it will have an effect on the value of either figure? Yeah, this one's an interesting one, because it's hard to tell at this moment in time. Like in the UK, we only have the red armband one, and I think in the US you're getting equal amount of both when people are actually finding them on the pegs. I know from some of my buddies out there, they're finding, you know, half with the red, half with the green. So my gut feeling on it is that the red one has had more produced, because obviously every version in the UK is the red armband, and we've got loads of them. So that's kind of my feeling, that the green one will be the rarer of the two. But, you know, don't quote me on that. That's just my opinion. Rob Ernest says, great video as always, boss. Question for next week: should the TVC collectors who want Ned B just pick up the retro line figure, since he looks to be the only option for 3.75 inch scale, since the droid only appears in season 1 of the Kenobi show and was, spoiler alert, destroyed? It now seems unlikely that Ned B will garner enough interest to have a figure made in the vintage collection line for the foreseeable future. Thoughts? Keep up the great content. Well, I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here, because I've got him sort of sitting there right now, but I don't personally think that any retro collection figure should ever replace a vintage collection figure in someone's collection. Like, I've got him because I wanted the card back essentially, and because I've already got all of the other retro collection figures. It's something that I'd rather they didn't do, and that they just brought this figure out in the vintage collection in the first place. So no, I don't really see him being a replacement. I really do have my fingers crossed that Hasbro will still do that figure. They've got the card back. That's kind of a good sign, maybe, that, you know, with the Inquisitors, maybe sometime in the future we will get those, because they've done the card backs already. It's not a given, but, you know, it's all we've got to hang on to at the moment. Duncan Carter says, hey boss, question for next week: do you think we'll ever get the TVC Cad Bane or Tusken Raiders in the future from the Book of Boba Fett show? You seem like an amazing guy. Keep up the great content. Thank you so much, Duncan. Appreciate that, my friend. I think those two are very, very likely. Let's put it like that. Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, live action Cad Bane, we're definitely going to be getting that at some point. I can't see them not doing that. Tusken Raiders, I think they were in it enough. They were in plenty of the episodes, so hopefully we'll either get the warrior or the shaman. I could see Hasbro doing either of those, so let's keep our fingers crossed for next year. Lennon says, hey BB, great video as always. Question for next week: with lots of new figures coming with really gummy Bendy Blasters, do you have any suggestions on how to harden them up? Some sort of glue, epoxy, nail varnish, Best wishes from Scotland and look forward to the next videos. From Andrew. So Andrew, unfortunately, my friend, I am the wrong person to be asking about sort of anything DIY or customizing or anything like that. And I wouldn't really want to be suggesting anything that ends up melting your blaster and making it even more gummy. What I can say is that we need to sort of be on to Hasbro about this and say, you know, this just is not acceptable. You know, the figures are so good these days. Why are the blasters so bendy? If you go back to the Legacy Collection or TVC 1.0, they were not like that. So come on, Hasbro. You know, you're probably saving pennies, you know, on these. It's just not good enough. Patreon supporter Josh Butt says, hi Tim, great episode and thank you for the shout out on the R2-D2 review. I am indeed Little Bossk's biggest fan. Question for next week. The new figure Luke Skywalker Imperial Light Cruiser on the surface has a terrible name. I mean, why not Jedi Master or Dark Trooper Battle or something like that? But it has me thinking that maybe a new playset is coming. Do you think with all the figures for the Light Cruiser now available that Hasbro is planning a new playset? It's definitely an idea. I can't say either way. You know, there's nothing that I know of that's coming for a Light Cruiser playset. I think the one that they've done with the Mando and the Dark Trooper and Moff Gideon, maybe that's what we're getting in terms of a mini playset for that sort of Light Cruiser. Maybe that's all we're going to be getting. I did say when that was first announced that I would have preferred it to have been the battle between Luke and the Death Troopers, maybe, and maybe have like a damaged one or something. You know, I just think they could have done a bit more than that. But obviously they already had Mando, they already had Moff Gideon, they already had the Dark Saber, they already had most of the Dark Trooper sculpt, which they've amended to sort of, you know, have a hole in his head and some fire effects on his body and everything. So it's a much easier one for them to do. But who knows in the future, my friend. Okay then, guys, that's it for this week's episode. If you want to be featured next week, please leave your questions in the comment section below and I will do my best to get round to them. Thank you all for watching and thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support means a great deal to me, so thank you so much for that. Thank you all for watching and we shall see you on the next one.